Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. I hope their holiday season is a good one. All I can say is if you're out there on the highways, be safe. You never know what can happen, okay? Today we're going to be talking about a few things. I'm going to be getting caught up because I was gone for a couple of days over the holiday. But in brief, what do we know? We know that Iraq's going to eliminate cash effectively. And we have a bank that's called the FIB bank. It's bragging that they're the first to be able to facilitate banking electronically, and they have the first license from the central bank to promote financial transactions. What's really nice about this is that they indicate that they've had, within the last 7 months, they've issued 2 million Iraqi cards, electronic bank cards, okay? I said 7 months, I meant to say 10 months. But according to the banking, Private Banking Association, I'm pretty sure that that's a pretty big deal. They go on to say that being that they're the first electronic bank to provide these services, they would really like the public to keep on coming in, and there is a need for them to visit the bank's headquarters. It says basically what they're doing is they're going to experience, and what they're doing will constitute a qualitative shift in the banking sector. We all know that these guys are really geared for now to do electronic payments, and they want to do it right. The new electronic platforms are basically out there to help facilitate that even with the Central Bank of Iraq. They're the ones that are supervising it now. They're giving the go-ahead for the private banks to start facilitating transfers in different currencies. They're probably all ready to go. We all know that the Iraqi dinar is going to be the currency for commercial trade in Iraq as of the first of this next year. So those are some of the things that they're talking about. Al-Sudani is basically saying the same thing. The Sudanese, which is Al-Sudani's government, wants to end internal dealings with the dollar. So that's what they've been working on. That's what they're dealing with. It says here the Central Bank of Iraq is to expand working using electronic cards as one of the steps to localize funds in Iraqi government and the private banks. It says the government's first economic goal is to provide cash liquidity, primarily with banks to achieve development goals, followed by other goals that contribute to the process of paying in the commercial market. That's what I was just talking about. So all these things that I've been mentioning, it's in their words and paraphrased in mine. So it goes on to say it will be codifying complications, codifying them, keeping track of the complications so they can fix them, and providing public facilities for the citizens to be able to do so. It says here the Iraqis rushed intensively to acquire electronic cards after government decisions that stipulated the expansion of work with these electronic cards. So once they said that we're going to expand the use, they're going to deal with that. They're going to keep doing it. Obviously, there's been a motivation so that they have, 2 million people rushed intensively to acquire electronic cards. I find that to be fantastic. They go on to say later that what they're dealing with is they're at the stage now where they're like tens of thousands of people a day that are getting cards. So that's phenomenal. It basically says that the electronic payment has many benefits, including the stability of the national currency. We've seen them talking about the national economy. Here we see them again, both talking about national economy, national currency. What are they talking about? They're stimulating trade. They're stimulating the tax disciplines. They're making ease of transactions. They're speeding the trade up along with those services. They're controlling state revenues. Basically, the electronic payment requires the provision of an appropriate infrastructure for such cash operation. They say that such as new servers, new databases, control and protection programs, and automatic payments and withdrawal ports. These guys are basically getting it done, and it's fascinating. the inroads that these guys have accomplished over the years, and even more so this year, shows that these guys have an acceptance to use these electronic cards. Millions of people, 2 million people, 10,000s a day, these are what they're saying. Basically, when they say these things about the parallel market, etc., an exchange rate, a real effective exchange rate that's stronger than the dollar, that the government stipulated that they would have, their expansion of these cards, their usage is going to be phenomenal, because effectively millions of people are going to say, wow, so I can decrease what I pay because I don't have to make change. I can do it digitally. They're going to, obviously, they already started. It's an ongoing process. It'll keep on going. It's no different than a landline here in the United States. Most everybody has a cell phone, but not everybody. There's still people out there with landlines. Different segments of the population do different things because of technology changes, sometimes a little bit too fast for people to grasp. But that's just how it is. So anyway, again, they're basically suggesting that this Prime Minister's advisor, Mohammed Saleh, when he talks, a lot of people listen. The guy's been around for a long period of time. Basically, he confirms today that Iraq will enter the advanced digital era next year, in 2024, with a major official announcement. I'm not sure what his major official announcement is, but we all know that things are going to change. We all know that the digital process can get down to smaller components of exchange rate for currency, etc. Right now, the smallest note is a 250 dinar note. Well, if you change the value of the currency, say for instance to a 1-to-1 ratio, we all know that the United States has pennies. Okay, well, Iraq has fils, which is fascinating. Today there was an article about, specifically today, Iraq has sold, or there has been an auctions for some rare money, and they have an orientation to fils. So it's kind of interesting that they're talking about selling very rare, effectively, fill notes for large amounts of money. So anyway, this particular guy, Saleh, basically says that they're going to enter the digital environment. It says non-oil revenue agencies are led by customs and tax authorities, border crossings, and others are at the forefront of financial and administrative reform and trends. All of the borders, all of the things that they mentioned have gone digital. The e-government, all of the things that we've been talking about for quite some time are really fascinating, because they're openly talking about it, that it's basically like implementation time. They're going to have an announcement here early next year or something to that effect. It says, based on the above, in order to achieve the goal of government program reforming and replacing digital systems and dealing with non-oil revenue agencies, an accurate digital program is being rapidly adopted by the government today and is based on assessment, examination, electronic collection, without direct human intervention, and in accordance with advanced digital systems, and implemented with sound national expertise and in cooperation with major international digital companies, in addition to the expertise of the United Nations Development and Trade Organization. Look, there's 2 reports out this month alone that you haven't seen yet. We have them. I have been reading on them. They're basically stating that the ICE-CUTA system, for instance, many things are in place. And the laundry list of things, if you will, of the word salad of all the entities, the global entities in the world have been dealing with Iraq. And this government advisor, in a sense, kind of drops the ball that there's going to be some more stuff, and I'll get to it in a little bit. But anyway, he goes on to say that the sectors of digital development, border crossings, customs, and taxes, they're at the beginning of the year 2024. Iraq will have entered. So in other words, they're going to do something in 2023. have entered the rapidly advanced digital era, and there will be a major official announcement in this regard. So the things that they're doing within the next few days is going to stimulate them, it sounds like, for a major official announcement in this regard. It says replacing payment systems and spreading digital engagement, starting with a digital government collection and ending with the large and small payments. I'm not really sure about the large and small payments, but all payments going digital, well, there's going to be large and small, but why would you bring large and small payments up? Well, in an environment, if you have, like Al Sudani said, that the dinar is going to be stronger than the dollar, you're going to have large payments and you're going to have some small payments, which would be hopefully small category notes plus fills. That hence the reason why I bring up the article today, that they're using it possibly as an education tool. So look that up. We have it in Patreon. We have all this Dear Samson, the news hound, she's been smoking lately. She just keeps on turning. They go on to say with the large and small payments, within economic activity will crown the new digital era for Iraq. So when you crown something, it's like, boom, done. It's awesome. It says the acceleration of the use of electronic payments is one of the guarantees of banking work, safety, and integrity. This article right here is insane because it really goes, it's named Government Advisor, Iraq will enter the advanced digital era in early 2024. I highly recommend you guys read this article through its totality. Let's go on. It says to the effect that they have certainty, which is the prevailing characteristic in the absence of digital payments, which simultaneously disrupts in the need for accelerated financing to support economic activity. They go on to stress that such a phenomenon undoubtedly would disappear in the digital banking system, and the risks of cash liquidity will decrease due to the high levels of certainty in the flow of funds provided by the digital systems and transactions between the public on the one hand, and on the public and banks on the other hand, within the framework of running highly governed digital payment systems. Basically, it sounds to me like, with that kind of word salad, is that once they have digital payments, the cash side effectively goes away. It's secure, it's safe, it has efficiency, it has accountability, and basically the phenomena, I think, of the parallel market basically disappears because it isn't transparent. The parallel market is illegal. And we all know that. And so why they keep talking about the parallel market has such a big effect, I have a feeling that there isn't one. They used to say that there wasn't one, but I think they were telling the truth. So it's not going to have an effect. You raise the value of your currency, the dollar's stronger than, the dinar stronger than the dollar, it likely goes away quite quickly. Here it is. This is, I didn't think I had it still today in my queue, but it says selling an Iraqi currency dating back to the era of the King Fauzi, right? And today it says that they spent 100,000 pounds sterling for one currency that was the Iraqi currency dating back to the royal era. It's sold in the country today for, 187 million Iraqi dinars. Basically, it was a note of 100 fils, banknote. 100 fils. So think about that today. What is 100 fils? It's absolutely worthless. Okay. So anyway, check that one out. It's pretty good. Selling an Iraqi currency dating back to the era of King Fauzi for 100,000 pounds sterling, and they're talking about fils. Yeah, fils are, they're going to be important pretty soon. So it's pretty exciting. Here's the next one is that Iraqi Private Sector Development Council, a new step towards the development. Goes on here is that the Iraqi government has reactivated the Private Sector Development Council. Well, obviously they have a reason to reactivate it because it wasn't doing well. But here we are that Al Sudani, the Prime Minister, he's reactivating this, and he is one of the promising steps to revitalize the private sector to restore its life. Why? He's taken up the presidency position. From what it sounds like. It says that the Prime Minister restored the spirit of the council by assuming its presidency personally to ensure the presence of personalities with capital as they can convey the image and reality of investment. So he's putting his stamp on it. And then they go on to say an expert, Osama Al-Tamimi, pointed out that, quote, the issue of developing the private sector is important and the state's intervention in developing it is a must. So these guys are bullish, big time, private sector, going on to say that the development courses are basically to pave the way for private sector to carry out new activities that the state does not interfere in establishing. Private sector, all of this is about the Private Sector Development Council. By assuming its presidency personally to ensure the presence of personalities with the capital, they can convey the image and the reality of investment. So we all know that with al-Sudani's stamp, him being at the helm of this new, well, not new, but the council, by reactivating it, him taking the presidency is going to give investors some confidence. That's pretty much the way it sounds like. It says he's paving the way for the private sector to carry out new activities. The state is not going to interfere. The Private Sector Development Council will have broad powers that include the supervising the implementation of government policies related to the private sector in coordination with the relevant government agencies, of course. They're going to be providing technical and financial support to private companies. I think that's pretty heavy. Providing technical and financial support to the private companies. I think they'll like that. I think that's, well, if I was a private company and they were going to give me some support, or at least, some guidance, I think that's a good thing. Specialists expect that reactivating the council will contribute to improving the investment climate in Iraq, attracting more foreign and local investments, which will obviously contribute to achieving economic development and creating job opportunities. The next article, which is going to be interesting as well, it's still about electronic, digital transformation. I mean, that's where this place is headed. You're not going to be a digital society at 1310. It's just not going to work that way, I don't think. The Minister of Labor directs the organization of electronic inquiries and digital transformation in the ministry's departments. So here we have the Minister of Labor and Social Affairs, Hamed Al-Hassadi, today says that the ministry is moving towards digital transformation in providing services electronically, indicating that this represents a prelude to completing the automation of the ministry in all of its departments, bodies, and formations. It goes on to say that the Council of Ministers today, the general strategic framework is to implement comprehensive government services from a single source, with the work being electronic in all aspects of the ministry, starting with the inquiries, with the importance of developing treatments, including archiving work. So, look, electronic services for all the bodies of the ministry are basically going to be a wave of the future. To organize electronic inquiries in all the ministries and bodies, departments, include computer engineers, development courses, reorganize their work to suit the recognized or the required specializations. All of these things, all of these treatments are very necessary in ministries to provide services to a very large group and segments. You just have to say, like, look, the Ministry of Labor, Social Affairs is not the only body looking to stay the course anymore. The implementation of digital transformation in all aspects of all the ministries and all the bodies and departments of the government services what we're watching. That's what we're watching. They're unfolding this before our eyes. It's awesome to see. They're not the only ones seeking to get Iraq in the global financial system. Basically includes what? Massive amounts of global entities. You have word salad that we've talked about. WTO, BIS, World Bank, UN, UNCTAD, and man, there's a lot of entities with the UN. All of those things are starting to blossom. They're coming into fruition. There's a There's 2 new reports out this month in December. I believe one was on the 21st, and I think the other one was on or around the 15th. Doesn't matter, or 13th. It is all been within the last 2 weeks. This snippet here says United Nations Interagency Cluster on Trade and Productive Capacity. It says that the Chief Executive Board's coordination, which is the CEB, Interagency Cluster on Trade and Productive Capacity, is led by the UNCTAD and includes the word salad, but they are FAO, the ILO, the ITC, the UNCITRAL, UNDP, UNEP, UNIDO, the UNOPS. So you get the point, right? But here's the kicker too. They include the WTO in that word salad. That includes 5 United Nations regional commissions. So when you go to these sites and you find out that the UN is dealing with all of those entities for Iraq, Iraq is inclusive. And it's not just about Iraq, there's other countries. And then you talk about the systems that they're going to be dealing with. You go, wow, even the ICE-CUTA system is involved. They even have operations around the world. But back to this cluster situation is that who they're representing, their whole goal is, this is a operations at a national level, starting with the 8 delivering as one pilot. All these different clusters, this cluster is to help with the participation and design of implementation of joint programs in 2023 and moving into the future. The United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework is for the following. So they have Africa, which is a huge amount of countries. One of them is, interestingly enough, Zimbabwe. The Arab states includes Egypt, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Interestingly enough, in Asia, one of the countries that got my mind was Vietnam. And then, again, those were some interesting countries that are mentioned. But I also see that Azerbaijan is here, because we know that Iraq and Azerbaijan were in the running for a session to the WTO. So there's some of the stuff that I probably could dig a little deeper for you guys, and we could talk about it later. But I just wanted to brief it that there's 2 reports out from the UN having to deal with all of the things that I'm talking about. And I guess basically it's part of that digital transformation and going international. The ICE-CUTA system is a digital system, and all of the other things that they're going to try to be doing is going to be along those lines. Less paper, more digital, it's easy. Here it says on this particular snippet, it says the ICE-CUTA operations around the world for 2022, 2023. It says it's called the ICE-CUTA World. The latest generation of ICE-CUTA's IT customs management system was implemented in the first time in the Cook Islands, Iraq, and Tonga. Okay, so you see where we're headed? The system is not going away. The ICE-CUTA World prototype was installed on servers and adapted to national specifications. A legal analysis of the customs environment was conducted, and a high-level awareness seminar for PGAs, private sector, and international community was organized in Baghdad. If you guys remember, the IMF back in November did 11-day training situation, and they were talking about customs and laws. That was from November 6th, and I think went through November 17th for them to basically talk about customs laws. And so one of the newest countries I just read to you is from Iraq. Iraq's going to be dealing with the ICE-CUTA system. The borders, they're all hooked up. They've told us that all of the borders have been hooked up, and they're just waiting and ready to go for, I guess, that there's a specific time that the countries or the world has for us to find out what that means. But here on this particular circumstance, we know that Iraq is involved in all of those circumstances. Okay, so it's really kind of fascinating that the report with the ISCUDA system in Tonga, Albania, Belize, El Salvador, a lot of just different entities are involved. So I guess we just got to get used to the fact that there's going to be a whole new ball game coming to the world, and the UN has a plan from now till 2030, and we have Asia, we have Africa, we have the Middle East, we have Europe. They're all involved. So it's not just a Dinar guru thing. It's a global thing, you guys. If you can't figure that out yet, I suggest it's time for you to knuckle down and get ready for it, because it's happening. Iraq has regained its leadership role and is now moving to expand investment and construction opportunities. Well, there you have it. Undersecretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Administrative and Technical Affairs, basically stating that they're moving towards expanding investment, construction, reconstruction opportunities, defeating terrorism, all of those things. Who's involved? I read out 3 countries. I have Egypt, I read out Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. This article right here today, okay, is talking about what? Reconstruction, construction, investment, all of the things that we've been talking about. And here again, they just told you, Iraq is now moving towards expanding investment, construction, reconstruction opportunities after defeating terrorism represented by terrorist organizations, noting that Iraq has regained its leadership role. Iraq has gained its leadership role through its firm position on Arab issues, and they're in the region. And it basically goes on that the United Nations, this is a snippet, United Nations, Interior Agency Cluster, Trade and Productive Capacity, which title, A New Path for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I only took a brief snippet of the 3 countries that are right there, border countries, effectively, was Egypt, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. Some of the biggest trading partners. Oil deals, all that stuff. Go on here to suggest this other article is the Compensation Office for Nineveh Government announced the near completion of the compensation file after the funding arrived from the Baghdad in continuous and flowing manner. I'm just going to say this, that they go on to say the Compensation Office in Nineveh is working continuously to complete many of the affected people's transactions during the past few days, and to determine after the funding has arrived from Baghdad to continue to complete the compensation file as we enter the 2024, that is the end of the current year, 2023. So funding is underway, and how I would read that is that they're going to finish this as quickly as possible. I can say this, the next article from the Central Bank of Iraq. It says procedures have revolutionized the financial banking sector. The Assistant Director of the Department of Investment and Foreign Remittances, the Central Bank, Muhammad Yunus, confirmed that the central bank's measures were a revolution, pretty powerful, right, in the financial and banking sectors, indicating the central bank has begun to reap the fruits of the recent measures. Yunus says, central bank's measures contribute to enhancing transparency. We all know that that's what this whole system's about. Governance of financial institutions, making sure everybody's on the same page, improving services provided to citizens, and increasing confidence in the Iraqi economy, of course, right? So the central bank basically is going to continue doing all that, promoting growth and stability. But he goes on and points out compliance with international standards facilitated the trade financing process and contributed to increasing Iraq's exports. So they did something to be in compliance with international standards, which will facilitate or was facilitating trade financing processes, which contributed to what? Increasing Iraq's exports. That is what the private sector is all going to be about. They're going to increase the private sector. One of the things that they do is that they're going to start to implement this electronic platform payment system. And what is it going to do? It's going to be facilitating fast transactions, increased transparency, and you guys, it's nothing new on that. This one I'm just going to be really fast and brief before I get to the end. It says the Sudanese advisor, which is Al Sudani, announces the start of the first step to regulate trade relationships between Iraq and Turkey. Well, Iraq and Turkey doing trade together. What are they going to do? Trade together. Exactly what they said they were going to do. They're going to get rid of the dollar, and they're going to work between local currencies and the Iraq dinar and other currencies. Commercial trade is going to be done in the dinar. This article says these two countries' national currencies will be a tool for direct exchange between them, and through solid and stable mechanisms that the Central Bank of Iraq will draw up measures for, including the draft equal deal that supports the stability of commodity supply in Iraq, with the government statement mentioned in this regard. So what are they doing? They're going to start trading in dinar, just like they said they were going to do. They're going to trade in dinar, won, yen, dirham, Jordan, Egypt, everybody, right? They get it. And so at the last thing here, it says, before the eyes of the humble prime minister is a vision to activate achievement of economic reform. And he's taking it a little step further to the 24 through the 2026. He's basically suggesting this after, well, this is my view, after an exchange rate change and they get to this purchasing powers aspect and that reconstruction effort, all of those things that we talked about get started, he's probably adding an extra year for that to be, they're going to be achieving a lot of different things. It says here, it says the Prime Minister included many of the economic sectors and fields which occupied nearly most of the aspects of the government curriculum, because without achieving comprehensive and radical economic reform, which begins with financial and banking reform, the full goals of the visions of the government cannot be achieved. Therefore, the government curriculum, as I see it, is that's them talking, by the way, it is a 4-year strategy to achieve the economic reform revolution. Look, they're calling it a revolution. Something big is going to change, because they're not going to do a revolution. We've been here for 20 years, and it's been somewhere between 1180 and 1310 and 1450, and that hasn't stimulated a revolution. So obviously something's up. It says here, on the occasion of the Prime Minister's announcement that the 2024 will be a year of achievements, it is an affirmation of the insistence on implementing the roadmap set out in the government curriculum in a way that supports economic, financial, and banking reform, and it will be accomplished. Okay, so basically all investment service, administrative, technical, and structural reports will be part of the process and will be accomplished. And it goes on to say that they're ready to maintain the stability of the Iraqi dinar exchange rate in the monetary trading market. So they're going to do this for the purpose of what? Activating, keyword, the reform measures for the years 24 through 26. The following was proposed before the attention of the Prime Minister, so they've actually talked about it. And I think there's a couple little pieces, you guys, that we can just smack it home, which are important, because they call this the Supreme Council, Economic Council. I think it's technically called the Ministerial Council of Economics, but here in this article they're talking about the Supreme Council. It says that the movement should be based on the reform system that relies on several important economic pillars, and that it adopts a new methodology for managing the economy and achieves a central goal of moving the economy from a rentier productive economy, meaning they're going to get off the oil, right? They're going to go to cash to digital, from cash to digital. They're going to be activating productive sectors other than oil to reach 50% of general budget revenues in 2026. I think if you guys remember back, there was a time where we talked about this, and I think that we did that about 3 to 6 months ago, that we talked about that there specifically, that they already told us that they were going to be about that range. So this isn't really new to me. I think it goes back quite a few months that they know that the new private sector, all of the things that they've accomplished with all those entities that I mentioned have got us to that stage where that they have everything in place to get to that 50%. For instance, we have oil, we have the borders, we have tourism, agriculture, all of those things, and they're saying it here. It's awesome. They've kept their exchange rate at 2%, all of these different things. But basically, this article was fascinating because it had all the bullet points. It says, well, on the 5th bullet point, it says activating investment in the agriculture, industrial, energy, tourism, services, and housing sectors, as well as working to reform, develop, and grow the banking sector through monetary policy applications, regulating the relationship and the restrictions that govern financial and monetary policies, as well as serious approach to the reform the tax, financial, customs system, addressing the cases of the failure to achieve the required growth rates in national income, and exceeding the rise in the unemployment and poverty rates. Okay, last thing is accelerating the implementation of the e-government, the program coordinating with electronic payment systems. They focused on the following up of all these decisions that they've made, the use of electronic payment systems, commercial exchanges, talked about commercial exchanges, different currencies, right? Banking operations, activating the establishment of the National Electronic Payment Company with the central bank was recently announced. I know that was a lot of information, you guys. Sorry for being so long-winded, but the bottom line is that if you actually come into Patreon and you go through all these documents that I have printed out today and I shared with you, I think you can almost drop the mic, because Iraq's going to go international. We don't have a very long time to wait as far as what they're telling us. If they throw us a curveball and we find out something different, don't shoot the messenger. But thank you guys for being with me tonight, and we'll talk to you really soon, and I hope you have a happy new year. And I think we're going to be moving forward with some really positive information. So thank you very much, and God bless you all. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.